and today I'll be doing a capped analysis on the game Tetris. So first, who made the game? So the Russian Alexei Paydanov made Tetris in 1984 in the Soviet Union, so it was first made in modern day Russia. And he didn't do it alone. He was helped by two people, Dmitry and Vadim. They also worked on it, but he was the main developer of the game. He kind of got inspired through his love of Pentomino blocks, which you can see a picture of right below him over on the left. As you can see, if you know the game Tetris, most of these pieces are similar, if not the same, as the ones found in the game Tetris. So the game Tetris came about around the end of the Cold War movement, and the background behind it is laced in this. There was a large movement in the USSR and in the United States to start to kind of bridge the gap between the two superpowers. The USSR would collapse only about 5 years later, so the USSR wouldn't be around for much longer, but at this time they were starting to use each other's products, and communism wasn't really as strong in the Soviet Union as it had been before. Tetris was one of those things made in the USSR and then eventually shipped out to the West, where Western audiences could play the game. It was the first game software entertainment, which is, in other words, a game or a movie or things like that, to be made in the USSR and then sent to the United States. So it was part of a larger movement to try to bring the two countries together because the tension wasn't quite as high as it had been before. It was also part of a movement for video games to move to the personal computer. When Tetris was initially released, most people played video games either at an arcade or they had some console, even though there weren't many on the market. There was like the Atari and things like that released at that time. But in 1983, because of the lack of consoles and quality video games, the video game industry crashed. But even though this happened, Tetris was released in 1984, so 1 year after this crash, and helped kind of begin rebuilding the industry. Even though it's a very simple game, it was quality. So, and part of that is it was able to be put on anything. If Tetris has been on almost every video game system known to man since it's been released, and so putting it to the PC was super easy and allowed people to play a video game that they enjoyed, and it restored some faith in the video game industry. It was also very cheap, so people didn't really care if maybe they didn't enjoy it because it was a game putting blocks together, not something complicated. Like I said before, Tetris has been on almost every system ever, and which means there's a lot of different versions of Tetris. There are over 50 different versions of Tetris. Some of them as simple as just changing one thing or being updated for color and things like that, but there's still 50 different versions of it. Many different companies have published these games, such as Nintendo and Sega. It's the name gets licensed out and people do it. There's also plenty of knockoffs of Tetris that are Tetris, just don't use the name. So it's inspired probably over 100 different video games. It's simple to make. This is the main reason why it's published so much. They only need to change one or two things, maybe change the aesthetic, add maybe one new feature, and bam, you have a brand new game that people are definitely willing to buy because there are plenty of diehard Tetris fans that just want to keep playing Tetris. Now, the game does actually have a setting, at least the original one did, and some of the later ones have some different type settings, but I'm going to focus on the very original one. Game set in Moscow. You can see this is a picture from the startup screen, is the Kremlin, and it's it's supposed to simulate like the building of a country, like the founding blocks of a country and the power of a government. It's really what it's supposed to symbolize. That may be digging too deep, but the Kremlin is there, no doubt. And it could also be an allusion to the fact that the USSR wasn't doing so great in the 80s. It was starting to, you could see the cracks in the armor. So maybe we need to build a new foundation. The creator hasn't really said when it comes to that. And yeah, so that's my cap analysis on the game of Tetris, and here's my works cited. Thank you.